It's Monique Renewed. Welcome back to another video. So today's video is my top 10 marriage advice for long-lasting results. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Monique. I make lifestyle videos, faith videos, and today is an advice video. So if you like that, I would love for you to subscribe right down below and join the fam. So if you're anything like me, you love watching shows like Married at First Sight, 90 Day Fiancé, or Love is Blind. I just got finished watching season 2 of Love is Blind. I'm very late to the program, but something about people finding love and new relationship, it could be so captivating to watch and also so frustrating when you see when things don't work out and why they don't work out. So I was flipping through one of my teen advice books and I saw like a topic about marriage and I was like, duh, why not make a video about your advice on marriage? Since I know a lot of young women out there are looking to get married or trying to find a spouse or courting and dating and want advice on marriage. So me personally, I've been married for about 5 years and I've been with my spouse altogether for 11 years. So on this journey, I have learned a lot of things over the years. And I would say I got married relatively young-ish. I could speak on a few things on marriage. Okay, so let's get started. Advice number 1 is marriage is supposed to make you into a better person. I believe one of the main reasons why God instituted marriage is to help develop your character. So there are certain things that your spouse can bring out of you on a consistent basis because you're always with them all the time. They're probably like the main person that you're with like every single day. So they see everything about you. They see your flaws. They see your whole character. Like if you guys are always constantly like butting heads over the same things, like if they point out certain characteristics about you, such as you're always nitpicking or you cause arguments about like small things, or you get angry easily, like you have a bad temper, or maybe you shut down in the face of conflict, you might want to reflect about that and just think, do other people besides my spouse say this about me? If so, this might be a character flaw about myself that maybe God is trying to point out using your spouse that you have to change about yourself. It's not always a good thing to go into super defense mode. We automatically want to defend ourselves when somebody points out things, but sometimes it is an opportunity to reflect about your characteristics that may not be so pleasant and think, maybe you're right. Maybe other people do point these things about me, or maybe this was how I was raised and maybe I should change that about myself. And that could be an opportunity for you to break bad habits. So if you notice that your spouse is always constantly saying certain things about you, about your characteristics, you might want to do some self-reflection and work on that so you can better yourself as a person. Tip number 2 is that you guys are on the same team. I had to learn this for myself, to stop working against my husband and to work with him. So what I mean by that, you guys being on the same team, marriage is a partnership. You guys come together and you work together for the greater good to enhance each other's lives. For example, I used to be upset like if I find that I'm always doing this specific thing that I feel like my husband doesn't really do, and I used to think it was unfair or unbalanced. But then over time I had to learn, you know what, Monique, there are some things that he does that you don't do, and he doesn't complain about that. Like he's always driving, he's always mowing the grass, taking out the trash. I don't do those things, he does. So, you know, I had to learn to be happy in my roles and what I do and how I contribute to the household, rather than working against my husband and arguing with him about why don't you do this, why don't you do that. You both come together to each do things that you're good at, and then so to make the household work in peace and harmony. So for instance, I personally enjoy cooking. I like cooking. You know, that's not really something I ask my husband to do unless he wants to cook for himself or whatever, but it's something that I like to do. I like to do for the both of us. Him, on the other hand, he likes to drive. I don't like to drive. So often when we go out, you know, he doesn't really ask me to drive, he drives. So that's what I mean. You guys do different things and it's okay. Like, you don't have to fight against your husband. You have to realize that you guys are both on the same team together. Advice number 3, longevity is the real test of marriage. Okay, let me repeat that again. Longevity is the real test of marriage. In the Bible, in Malachi 2:16, it says that God hates divorce. Okay, that is such a strong emotion, is the hate, but he truly does not like divorce. When he made marriage, he made it for a lifetime commitment. Of course, there are certain reasons why it is necessary to get a divorce, such as cheating or abuse and other things like that. But oftentimes what I see from these TV shows such as Married at First Sight or Love is Blind is that these contestants, they can't wait to get married. They're all about marriage. And then they finally meet their spouse. They're so infatuated. They act like they are heads over heels. And then after a while, these feelings, these intense feelings that they have go away. And then it's like they couldn't really care too much for their spouse. They've fallen out of love with them and they want to split and move on to the next. And it's like, okay, that is not the purpose of marriage. Like, it's for longevity. These strong feelings of infatuation will draw you to that person, but it will not keep you with that person. Okay, reflect on that for a second. So it's almost like people get addicted to the high of falling in love and the newness of a relationship, but then they fall out once, you know, it pans out for a few years because they realize they can't really stay together for whatever reason. So ask yourself, are you willing to stick it out, compromise, communicate, and give selflessly, give your all to this person for the long haul in a marriage? You really need to reflect on those questions and see if you're prepared for that. Tip number 4 is that your husband is not psychic. Okay, sis, like, as much as you would love for your husband just to know things automatically, just to do things automatically without you having to tell him, or just to know what's on your mind, it ain't gonna happen like that. Okay, and I have a little story I want to insert in this piece of advice. So one day a few months ago, I had went to my doctor for a annual visit, and the night before, me and my husband got into a really bad argument. And so I went to the doctor's office and she was talking to me. She was asking me how everything was going. At this point, I had just had my baby. She was a few months old. So, you know, her sleep was not really regulated. I was also really tired. And, you know, she asked me how I was managing. You know, when you're not feeling it, or when you're upset, or when something's clearly wrong with you. I was just nonchalant. I was just like, yeah, I'm fine. Like, not really talking much. And she just looks at me and she's like, are you okay? Are you sure you're okay? And that is like the number one thing you do not ask a person when they're upset is, are you okay? I started crying, okay? I started crying and explaining everything to her. You know, me and my husband got into a fight. I feel like he's not listening to me. He's not listening to my needs. And she gave me one of the best pieces of advice that ever stuck to me, ever. And at this moment, that's when I realized I needed to start going to therapy. And actually I did. So she said that men are not intuitive, okay? They can't read your mind. They're not psychic. They're not intuitive like women are. You're expecting him to always do these things, or always to automatically know things, and he's not going to be able to do that because that's not how they are wired in their brain, unlike women. She said you have to keep telling him over and over and over again. And she said that's the same way with me and my husband. You have to keep communicating what your needs are, and as long as he does it, then it's okay. As long as he keeps working towards it, then it's fine. And I was just like, wow, really? I was just like, oh my gosh, you're right. Like, I'm over here in my head like, why don't you automatically know these things or to do these things? And she's like, that's not how it works. And it made me feel so much better. And, you know, I had to talk with my husband, and, you know, he agreed, and I was like, it just lifted like 10 pounds off my shoulders. I know us women, we want things like automatically done, especially by our significant other, but just realize that it may not happen, and do not set such high expectations on your spouse, because that will cause failure, because they might not be able to meet those expectations. And that also plays into the last tip where I was saying that you guys are both on the same team, to stop working against each other and work with each other. There are certain attributes that you will each have that are different from the other, but that is what's so great about it, because they can complement each other and they can work together. So he's more practical, more logical, and I'm more of a feeler, and I'm more sensitive and more intuitive. But even though we're not the same in those aspects, it works together. And this leads into tip number 5. It is okay if you guys are not the same person, and I dare say it is even better if you guys have differences and don't agree on everything. You can expect arguments, you can expect disagreements, but as long as you are both respectable and come together and meet in the middle, it is fine. You and your spouse do not have to be the same exact person, okay? You guys don't have to have everything in common. Like I was saying earlier, I'm more of a feeler. I'm more sensitive. I can sense things and like certain energies about people, and that's just how I am naturally. I feel like that is literally how God made me. Like I used to complain to God, like, why did you make me so sensitive? And I feel like you gave me an extra dose of estrogen. And I realized that this, what I thought was a weakness, is actually my strength. And on the opposite end, my husband is more logical. He's more of a realistic thinker. He's more of a phlegmatic temperament rather than me, who's more of a melancholy temperament. So we come together and sometimes we butt heads and we have disagreements and we don't see eye to eye because of our differences. But that is also what I can say. What I love about him is because he is the logic to my overthinking. Like sometimes I read too much into details and he draws me back a little bit and say, hey, look at it from this perspective. So he grows me in that sense. And I can also teach him to have more understanding and compassion and sensitivity towards other people and not think so surface level. So that is what I really like about having certain differences amongst each other, is that we can show each other different ways of thinking and different ways of doing things rather than always being the same. So yeah, that is tip number 5. Tip number 6 is, sis, you got flaws too, okay? Don't act like you're perfect, because there's no perfect human being on this earth. Sure, our spouse may annoy the daylights out of us and they may do certain things that we really don't like and don't appreciate. But you have to also step back and think, okay, I have flaws too. There are certain things that I might do that provokes my spouse, and you really have to reflect on that. So a real big part of marriage and growing in maturity that I have learned is to take accountability for my own actions, for my thought processes and my reactions to certain things. And I had to learn to apologize. I was a big non-apologizing person. Like I did not apologize for anything. But me being married, I find myself often saying, okay, I was wrong in this situation. I could have handled that better. And I find myself taking accountability for my actions and learning to say I'm sorry for what I did, regardless if he also did something wrong. I had to take part in what I did regardless. So yeah, like these shows that I watch sometimes, like Love is Blind, I will see certain characteristics that I have in other people on the screen, and I'll see like their spouse reacting to that, and I'm just like,
oh my gosh, I act like that too.
Like, is this how it is to be with me? Like, and then I'll ask my husband, I'll be like,
yo, am I really like that?
And he'll be like, yes. I'm like, oh my gosh. So, you know, often we'll find ourselves complaining to God about this person and that person, and oh, what about you need to fix him, and you know, look at what he did to me, and da 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 da. And guess what God does? He'll hold a mirror right to your face and say, okay, this person did this person said that, but what about you? What about you? Take responsibility for you, okay? And fix your flaws and fix your mistakes and take about accountability for your actions, okay? He will hold a mirror right to your face and be like, you're not perfect either. So that is something you have to realize about marriage, is that you are not perfect at all. So you have to think, okay, your spouse might have reacted to something that you did, but was it always unprovoked? Maybe not. Tip number 7 is do not hold grudges. The Bible does say don't go to sleep being angry with somebody, and don't hold that anger in you. I ain't gonna lie. Sometimes you be getting into arguments, I be going to sleep mad. I'm not gonna lie about that. I would say don't hold grudges. Oftentimes, if you get into an argument, don't throw those things that they did back in their face at a later time. If you let it go, then choose to actually let it go and forgive them and move on. Stop bringing up old stuff in the past if you chose to, you know, to move on with that person. It doesn't feel nice, it doesn't feel good, and it clearly shows that you're not over it. And another thing is, one thing I would really do is give Sean the silent treatment. Like I try to grow out of that. I really did learn that from my mother. You know, sometimes it was a toxic household, and that's how she would retaliate towards us. So automatically, that's how I learned to retaliate towards other people, is to give them the silent people. And I had to. Sean is not like that. He'll talk to you like after you got into an argument with him. Like it doesn't matter. But I'm totally opposite. Like, I'm still mad. Don't talk to me. You stay over there. But I really had to learn being with him to like grow out of that and to be more mature and to talk through my conflicts and my issues and my feelings rather than holding them in and holding grudges and being mad all the time and subliminally reacting and responding towards things that had nothing to do, you know, but because I'm angry, I'm still reacting out of that anger and resentment. So that is my next tip, is to don't hold grudges. Don't be resentful. If you choose to forgive somebody, forgive them wholeheartedly and let it go. Tip number 8 is kind of similar to the previous one, is to be honest. Sometimes we lie to ourselves and we lie to our spouses. If they ask you what's wrong, don't say nothing. Don't say I'm fine. Don't say I'm okay. Express how you feel. You know, stop holding stuff in all the time. If you feel like you need to talk to them about something, then talk to them about it rather than holding it in. Like, you're not supposed to keep secrets in a marriage. You're supposed to be able to tell your spouse anything. You know, they're supposed to be like one of your closest friends, if not your best friend. You're supposed to be able to come to them, and there's supposed to be a safe space to be able to express how you feel. And if they're not that safe space, then obviously there's a disconnect there. So yeah, you don't want your spouse to feel like, oh, they can't come to you, or maybe like you're always hiding things, or you're keeping secrets. It's not a good feeling, and you'll always feel like that distrust between you guys. So, you know, you guys are one. You guys should be able to share everything. My next tip number 9, is it is how you say it. Okay, it is also what you say, but it is how you say it. It is how you speak to your spouse, the words that you express to them. How do you express it to them? Do you say it really angrily? Do you say it respectfully? You have to learn how to talk to each other, okay? And this is something, you know, that you can bring from your childhood into your marriage. So if you grew up in a household that was a lot of yelling, a lot of screaming, a lot of arguments, silent treatment, a lot of disrespect, you have to learn to leave that mess behind and don't bring that into your marriage. Seek therapy if you need to. And I'm very serious. Like, if you need to seek therapy or couples counseling or something, even individually for yourself, because you know there's some baggage from your childhood that you don't want to bring into your marriage, do that, because it can really ruin your relationship with your spouse. The way that you treat them with respect, with honesty, with integrity. You know, don't do things to them that you would not like to be done to yourself. Is, you know, the golden rule that Jesus said. It is very true. Like, think empathetically. Okay, is this how I would like to be treated? If not, don't treat your spouse like that. Don't be yelling at them, cursing at them all the time, speaking to them any type of bad way. As I'm giving these tips, don't look at me like I'm perfect, because I'm not. I'm still working on myself as well. But like, bad attitudes and stuff like that, it's not nice, and it's not enjoyable to be around a person that's like that. Words can have an impact on how somebody feels. What I mean by this is, watch how you say certain things to them. Yeah, and just be mindful of how they will feel about your words and the way that you're presenting it to them. Be mindful of how you say certain things. And my last tip, but definitely not least, is that you need to compromise. Okay, these shows like Married at First Sight, okay, so when they finally get to live with each other, there's always some differences. Well, I don't like to be this far away from my job, and I like certain things over here, and I like my room to like this, and I don't like these foods. You guys need to come in the middle and compromise. You don't belong to yourself anymore. You belong to your spouse, and you guys need to be molded into one individual, literally. So you guys have to blend in, you guys have to compromise, and you have to give up certain aspects. It is not really a loss, it is a gain. Don't think about it, oh, I'm losing myself and I'm losing a piece of me. Think of it as you're gaining somebody else, and you're gaining a relationship that will benefit you for a lifetime. So yeah, but you definitely need to meet in the middle and compromise. I know we love things a certain way, especially if we've been an individual or single for so long. You just have certain ways of living that you don't really want to compromise on. But sis, you're gonna have to compromise. Like, if he doesn't like certain things, you guys are gonna have to meet in the middle, or else it's always gonna be like this conflict, and one person's gonna feel resentful because they feel like, well, this person is not really compromising with me. So there is some give and there is some take, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And the purpose is to make each other happy. So there's definitely some aspects that you might have to have some wiggle room with in order to make the other person happy, and that's fine. So it's not always a bad thing to compromise. It's just trying to meet in the middle so you guys can both enjoy life, basically. So yeah, that is all for today's video. I hope you guys enjoy. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos coming up on this channel, and I will catch you guys next time. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video, and yeah, bye. There are certain reasons that permit divorce, such as cheating,